Every generation feels like the economy failed them. Boomers, Gen X, Millennials, and Gen Z didn't lose the same way, but they were all exposed to the same design. 68% of Americans now say the economy is poor, driven by stress around groceries, housing, and healthcare. Here's how each generation got played differently by the same system. The Boomer promise: pensions and cheap homes. Boomers inherited an economy that actually rewarded work. Jobs were stable, mortgages affordable, and pensions guaranteed. Then came deregulation, offshoring, factories closed, unions weakened, and retirement security turned into a stock market lottery. The 401k replaced the pension, a polite way of saying, "You're on your own now." They were told the market would take care of them. Now, inflation eats their savings, while healthcare and utilities chew through what's left. Gen X, the corporate mirage. Gen X grew up believing they'd climb higher. Instead, they entered a job market obsessed with efficiency, code for layoffs and contractors. The 1990s promised endless opportunity. The 2000s delivered 2 recessions and flat wages. They got the worst of both worlds, boomers refusing to retire and millennials willing to work for exposure. By 2008, Gen X learned the hard way that the economy wasn't a ladder. It was an escalator running backward. Millennials. Debt as a lifestyle. Millennials were sold the idea that college was the ticket to freedom. But the ticket came with 6 figures of debt and a one-way trip to the Great Recession. They graduated into unpaid internships, gig work, and rent that outpaced income. Homes that cost their parents 3 years' salary now cost 7 or 8. So when critics say millennials don't buy houses, the truth is simpler. Their entire adult life has been one long financial survival game. Gen Z. Born into the crisis. Gen Z never got the illusion. They entered the workforce during chaos, pandemic shocks, housing shortages, and runaway prices. They're told to hustle harder while AI threatens their jobs and data centers drive up their electricity bills. According to the poll I mentioned earlier, over a third of Americans now call utility costs a major stress. So when Gen Z says the system's broken, they're not being dramatic. They're just noticing earlier than everyone else. Every generation got scammed differently, but by the same mechanism. Short-term policy wins traded away long-term balance. Tariffs meant to protect jobs raised prices. Offshoring lowered costs for corporations but gutted towns. Financialization made investors rich and workers disposable. Each fix shifted the pain onto whoever came next. That's how you end up with retirees afraid of grocery bills and 20-somethings afraid of adulthood. If you're still watching, you're already ahead of most people. They won't see this crash until it shows up in their rent bill. The real story in that poll isn't inflation, it's the death of economic faith. When nearly half the country doubts they can find a good job, that's not pessimism. That's a psychological recession. People don't believe effort pays off anymore, and economies run on that belief. Once trust disappears, spending slows, ambition shrinks, and cynicism becomes policy. You can measure it in numbers, but you can also feel it in every overpriced grocery aisle. This isn't just an American phenomenon. In Europe, Canada, and Australia, young people are locked out of housing, while older generations fear their savings will vanish. Different countries, same script. Growth for the few, anxiety for the many. We didn't just financialize the economy, we financialized hope. We're told it's a generational war, but that is the bait. It's not boomers versus millennials. It's policy versus people. Each generation blames the next while the real culprit, 50 years of short-term economics, keeps cashing in. The betrayal isn't cultural, it's structural. So when a 76-year-old retiree blames tariffs for rising chocolate prices and a 36-year-old single mom says she's working 2 jobs just to tread water, they're describing the same failure, a system that stopped rewarding work and started taxing survival. Because whether it's a pension that vanished or a dream home you'll never afford, the math always ends the same way. The promise breaks. The American dream didn't die suddenly. It faded through policy, inflation, and quiet indifference. Every generation believed they could win the game until they realized the rules were written to keep them playing. This is CoinRad. Hit subscribe And stick around for more stories about money, markets, and the madness behind them.